lot of fantasy. I did read a lot of thrillers, and I think it was because I needed quick books to read. I was very slumpy. I had spring break where I was reading a ton, and then I came back and just did not want to pick up books. So I usually go to thrillers or romances during that time because those are books that I know I can fly through. So this is also not all of the books because the month is not over. We still have about a week left of the month, and I'm currently in the middle of a book. So I'll talk a little bit about that book, but I'll definitely read more before the month is over. But without further ado, let's get into it. I started by listening to the audiobook of You with a View by Jessica Joyce. I gave this a 4.25 stars. I really like her books a lot. I gave The X-Files 4.5 stars. So very highly rated books from her. This one, I loved the side story of like the grandparents' love story. I really liked following that dynamic. And I just loved the idea of like a road trip, and I loved the chemistry between our two characters. It was really, really fun and just a fun read. And then on my Kobo, I picked up Project Hail Mary and went to see the movie over break. This was a 5-star read for me. Normally, sci-fi is a hit or miss genre for me, and a lot of people complained about the science and they said that it was over-explaining. I honestly found the science fascinating in this one. I don't know what it was, but it just really clicked for me. It was funny, it was very well written, it was emotional, it was beautiful. The movie was also fantastic, very book accurate, beautiful cinematography, just perfect from start to finish. That's not true. It wasn't perfect. There was one plot point in the book that I really wanted them to put in the movie, but I still gave the movie a 5 stars and the book 5 stars. So amazing, amazing experience. Amaze, if you will. Then I picked up The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This was my classic read of the month. I gave this a 4 stars. It was very unexpected. It was not what I was thinking the book was going to be. I think this would be a really interesting book to sit and analyze with a group of people for hours. The ending was so interesting to me. I love how it was ambiguous. The only thing that I didn't super love about it was kind of hard to figure out which timeline we were in. Maybe that was just me, but I couldn't understand if we were in like memories, or if it was like a flashback, or if it was happening currently. Like that I got a little bit lost on. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Academy by Ellen Hildebrand. This is my first Ellen Hildebrand book, and I know she normally writes summer reads, but I was very drawn to this one. I thought it would be a thriller. It was definitely more of like a fiction with suspense, but I loved the boarding school setting. I saw a couple reviews complaining about how there were too many characters, but I loved that we had so many different perspectives and so many little stories going on. It was really, really fun, and it didn't take away from the main story, I feel. I loved the boarding school setting. It was very cool, very interesting. It was very suspenseful, but again, it wasn't like thriller, like there wasn't like a murder mystery or anything. It was just kind of like crazy drama, but I really liked it. I thought it was really fun, so I landed on a 4.5 stars for that one. Then I read Eat Post Like by Emily Harden Walls. I read this physically, but my copy is in Muncie. I gave this a 2 stars. I wanted it to be this really cute, like vacation getaway romance, but I just found the main character insufferable. I don't know. I thought she was annoying, and I thought this was going to be a beautiful novel about grief because I did not realize that there's a death at the very beginning of the book. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be our character kind of like living with her grief and maybe finding love afterwards. It literally is like 8 months later, and she's already trying to move on, which I understand everyone grieves differently, but it felt very soon. Not only that, but if you're writing a book with a romance in it, it should be easy to tell who the love interest is. There was like 3 different guys that she talked to consistently, and I did not know who the love interest was supposed to be. And that was just frustrating for me. So I gave this a 2. It was just not my favorite. On the flip side, I read The Great Outdoors by Kayla Olson on NetGalley on my handy dandy Kobo. I read The Lodge by her last winter and gave it a 4.5 stars. This was a 5-star read for me. Perfect setting. I loved the camp vibes. I'm very into like granola boys. That's definitely my type. So of course I was hooked by the guy in this book, but I also just loved the story. I thought that the relationship felt very genuine, and it's one of those books where you read it and you're like, this feels like something that I could have in real life. You know, they had such interesting conversations and deep conversations and really truly got to know each other, which I think is beautiful. And one of my favorite parts of the book is our main character did not have to change herself for a man. You know, I was really worried that that was the direction it was going to go. She was going to kind of change her whole aesthetic just to be with this guy, because she is not a camping granola girl. But they found a way to sort of marry the two together where she can still appreciate nature and camping and all of that while still being herself. And that is something that's really important to me as a feminist reader. You know, I try to shoot for romances that aren't encouraging women to change for men, unless obviously it's like a negative behavior that they need to grow and live in. But she didn't have to change her personality to be with him. And I really appreciated that and love to see that in books. Then I picked up The Road Trip by Mary Kay Andrews, also on my Kobo. And this one was a 3. It honestly was just okay. I wasn't a huge fan. I liked the storyline, you know, like with the painting and going off to Ireland. But the two sisters, I feel like their whole thing was they were supposed to be foils of each other, and that was their character. Like, they didn't have any sort of character traits beyond being the opposite of each other, and I wasn't super wowed by that, which is interesting because I've read 2 Mary Kay Andrews books and I gave one 4.5 stars and one 5 stars, so this one was a 3 for me. It was just very mid. I wasn't a fan. Then I picked up Stellar Moon, which is the 9th book in the Gabriel Lost City series. I gave this a 5 stars. As a Sokeef shipper, this book made me insanely happy. I was fed with Sokeef content, and also just the plot and the world building in this one was really interesting. I literally can't believe I have to wait a whole year for the next book. I mean, technically there's 9.5, but I asked Izzy and she was like, it doesn't really continue the story of book 9 in 9.5, so I need to know what happens. I need to know who Sophie's dad is right now. So needless to say, I'm very hooked on the series, and I'm proud of myself for committing to it because I don't normally love long series. I usually cap it at like 5 books. So this one is 9 books, so I've committed, and I'm really proud of myself for getting through it. But yeah, that was a 5 star for me. Okay, then I read The Ministry of Time. This was one of the biggest disappointments. This was on my 26 books to read in 2026 list. This was one of my most anticipated reads, and it was just boring. I was so bored. I feel like this sort of plot at the end of the book, I was like, I would have loved to see this all throughout rather than just kind of like shoved in at the end. I also felt like the romance was so forced and unnecessary, and it just felt very off to me. I don't know if that's just me. Also, the writing, I don't know, the writing kind of threw me off because like it was beautiful, but it felt like the wrong type of writing for this story. Like, for this story, I wanted, you know, short sentences, action-packed, fast-paced kind of vibe, but the language was very flowery, the sentences were long, the words were long. It just felt like it didn't belong in this particular book, but it was beautiful writing, if that makes sense. So I gave this a 2 stars. I was not a fan. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez, my girl. You know I love Abby Jimenez because she writes the best men, and this book was no exception. Chris, guys, I literally was like blushing, giggling, kicking my feet. This is a really oddly specific thing that I am going to talk about. I haven't really shared this online, but I have a lot of allergies and medical like issues that have to do with like food sensitivities and like things like that. So like I have a lot of allergies, I have asthma, I have eczema, but you know, the eczema gets flared up by different foods and like that kind of thing. So Chris took care of this girl and her allergies. He called ahead at restaurants. He double, triple checked to make sure her EpiPen was on her and that it wasn't expired and that it was all good. He bought an EpiPen to keep on him. He threw out all the peanut food. He double, triple checked that no one had peanuts. Every party or event that they went to, he made sure that she had something that she could eat. That, if somebody did that for me, I would marry them. Like, because I am someone who is so anxious around food because of all of my like medical stuff. And so like the fact that he made her feel so seen and loved and safe, it almost made me cry. Like, I know that those scenes weren't meant to really make someone cry, but those scenes were the ones that hit the hardest for me, because I feel like I don't see a lot of that in romance books, like kind of representation like that, and it was just beautiful. I was very moved by it, and I think that whoever dates me in the future should take notes. So that was really beautiful to see. So obviously I gave that book a 5 stars. Like, it was perfect. But I just wanted to share that because that particular part of the book really stuck with me. As you guys know, I've also been trying to do some rereads every month, and I'm rereading the Grishaverse series. I just recently learned that it's pronounced Grisha, and it's changed my whole entire life. But this month, I reread Crooked Kingdom. This is like a 6-star read for me. It is in my top 5 favorite books of all time. I cried again reading this book. Not nearly as much as the first time, but still pretty significant amount. I love this book. Then I listened to the audiobook The Escape Game by Marissa Meyer and another author that I am blanking on right now. This was a really cool concept, and it was one of those books where I wanted to keep reading. Like, I was very intrigued by it. I loved the concept. The escape rooms were so vivid, and it was really easy to kind of picture the world. And I loved our characters. I loved kind of the found family element. Really cool. And I think that I love how it sets up a second book. But also you could leave it at the end and it'd be fine as a standalone, but the epilogue, or it's not really an epilogue, it's kind of like a where are they now last couple of chapters, those set up a sequel very well, which I really love, obviously. Yeah, I did guess part of the mystery. I didn't guess all of it, but I thought the clues were really cool, very well done. I think I gave this 5 stars. It might be a 4.5. It's one of the two, but either way, great book, highly recommend. Then I read Please Enjoy Your Stay by Tara Gojden. I read this on my Kobo again. It's from NetGalley. This one I gave a 4.25 stars. I loved kind of the haunted hotel setting. I thought that was really cool. It reminded me a lot of The Shining. Yes, it was very fast-paced. The one thing I didn't love is there's these little chapters in the middle that follow the aunt's journal, and I personally didn't feel like the story needed those. I was just as invested in the main story. I feel like we didn't need the whole side story with the aunt, personally. Which is why it's a 4.25 in my head, but I did still really like this and enjoy reading it. It was very fast-paced. I flew through it. Then I picked up Orbital. This one was a struggle because I chose to do the audiobook of this, and I feel like that was kind of like my mistake, because it was boring. It's one of those books where you know it's character driven, like you know it's beautiful writing about these characters and their perspectives on the world, and you know it's gonna be beautiful, but you're just bored. That's how I was. Like, I feel like this book has such a great message about the world and about life, but it's just not for me, and it's not what I needed in the moment, especially since I was feeling slumpy. So this was a 2 stars for me as well. Just not my favorite. And I know it's a very critically acclaimed book. I think I just read it at the wrong time. You know, I was in a slump. I was very much bored by other books that weren't fast-paced. If the book wasn't fast-paced, I was bored of it. So I just think that this came at the wrong time. And the book I'm currently reading is Asperfell. I thought that this was like a new release because I saw it on NetGalley, but apparently it came out a couple years ago and it's just still on NetGalley. But this is a fantasy. I'm only like 30% in, so I don't want to like fully judge it, especially since the plot has just started picking up at the 30% mark. But I will say, like, I definitely was bored at the beginning. The chapters are really long, which I'm not a fan of. But I do like the direction that the plot is going, so I don't think it's a full like 2 stars. I'm leaning towards like a 3.5. Seems fitting for Asperfell, just because they just kind of got to the fantasy world part of it, so I'm really excited to see kind of how the world building of like the magic world goes, and more of the plot and kind of like all of those plans. So I feel like once it picks up, it'll definitely be like a 3.5, 3 range. So that is it, I guess. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am in the thick of finishing student teaching, graduation, moving out, still hunting for a job, so I am absurdly busy. So we will see if videos come out in the next few weeks. I had to push and pull to find time to film this, so we shall see if videos come in the next few weeks, because your girl's a little busy. But make sure to check out my socials in the description box below for a full April monthly wrap-up when I finish more books, and full reviews, all of that. I also post bookish content on my TikTok. I've started posting on there again, so check that out. And my personal Instagram, always popping off. I try to post pretty frequently. Yeah, so check that out. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!